Welcome back, Sipsters. Ready for part 2 of our psychedelic dick dive.
We're back for more mind-bending insights, and trust me, things are about to get even wilder.
One thing that really struck me as we were prepping for this episode was the sheer variety of opinions people have about psychedelics.
Oh, totally. It's like this massive spectrum. You've got people who think they're dangerous drugs.
Right.
And then you've got folks who think they hold the key to spiritual enlightenment.
Yeah, and everything in between.
It's wild.
It's what makes this whole conversation so fascinating.
Right.
It pushes us to question what we think we know and consider perspectives that are completely different from our own.
Like, are we looking at these substances through a lens of fear and propaganda?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we actually open to exploring their potential?
Yeah. Both the good and the bad.
Speaking of potential, let's dive back into some of the scientific research.
Okay.
Because there's some seriously groundbreaking stuff happening.
There is.
Did you know that researchers are actually using brain imaging to see how psychedelics affect the brain in real time?
It's mind-blowing. They're using these techniques like fMRI and EEG to observe how brain activity changes.
Okay, break it down for us, science guru. What are they seeing?
Well, remember how we talked about the default mode network?
Yeah, like hitting the reset button on the brain.
And how psilocybin seems to quiet it down.
Yeah, but what does that actually look like?
With brain imaging, they can actually see that reset happening. They observe a decrease in activity in the default mode network. And at the same time, they see increased communication between different parts of the brain that don't normally talk to each other.
So it's like these psychedelics are rewiring the brain.
Yeah.
Forging new connections and pathways.
Mm-hmm.
But could that be a bad thing? Are there any downsides?
Well, that's a great question. It's still early days.
Yeah.
But the idea is that this increased connectivity is what leads to some of the therapeutic effects.
Okay.
Like breaking free from those negative thought patterns and experiencing that expanded awareness.
Right. It's like psychedelics are shaking things up,
Yeah.
allowing for new perspectives and insights.
Yeah.
But is it all temporary? Or are these changes lasting?
That's what researchers are trying to figure out. Some studies suggest that the changes in brain connectivity can persist even after the psychedelic effects have worn off.
Wow.
Which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And there's more. They're also finding that psychedelics can stimulate neurogenesis.
What?
Neurogenesis, the growth of new brain cells.
Wait, new brain cells. I thought we were stuck with the ones we got.
It turns out that's not entirely true. Our brains are more adaptable than we thought.
Oh.
And the fact that psychedelics can stimulate neurogenesis is a huge deal.
Yeah.
It challenges this old idea that our brains just stop growing after a certain age.
So are you telling me these psychedelics could have anti-aging effects on the brain?
It's possible.
That's wild.
Yeah.
But also, like, kind of terrifying. Messing with the brain, like, it seems risky.
I get it. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
And you're right. We need to be cautious
Uh-huh.
and do more research. But the potential here is huge.
Yeah.
Think about conditions like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's.
Right.
If we could find ways to stimulate brain cell growth,
Yeah.
it could be revolutionary.
I see your point.
Yeah.
All this new evidence is definitely shifting the perception of psychedelics, even among doctors and scientists
Right.
who used to be totally against them.
Those old fear-based narratives are slowly being replaced with a more nuanced, evidence-based understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And that's opening up all these new possibilities for therapeutic applications.
It's like we're on the cusp of a whole new era of medicine and mental health treatment, right?
It's exciting for sure.
Yeah.
Think about it. Conditions like depression, anxiety, PTSD, addiction.
Oh, yeah.
These are all areas where traditional treatments often just don't cut it.
Right. And with these skyrocketing rates of mental illness,
Right.
we desperately need new approaches.
Absolutely.
Psychedelics could be part of the solution.
They could.
They offer a completely different way of thinking about mental health, one that focuses on healing the root of the problem,
Yeah.
the underlying trauma,
Uh-huh.
and helping people reconnect with themselves and the world around them.
Exactly. It's not about masking the symptoms. It's about getting to the core of the issue and facilitating real lasting change.
Okay, all this talk about healing and potential benefits is really inspiring, but let's be real for a second.
Okay.
We can't just ignore the risks and challenges here.
Right. We have to be responsible and acknowledge that these substances are powerful and they can be unpredictable.
I'm thinking about things like the potential for psychological distress, especially for people who already have mental health conditions.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That seems like a big concern.
It is. That's why having proper screening preparation and integration support is crucial to minimizing those risks.
Because a bad trip can be really scary, right? And even traumatizing for some people.
Exactly. And that's why set and setting are so important.
Hold on, what's set and setting again?
It's basically the environment you're in when you take these substances. The people you're with, your overall mindset, all of those factors can have a huge impact on your experience.
So it's not just about popping a pill or eating a mushroom.
Right. It's about creating a safe and supportive container for the experience.
Okay.
Think back to those ancient cultures we talked about. They understood this intuitively. They integrated these substances into their spiritual practices with rituals, guidance, and a supportive community. It was a whole different approach.
So it's not just about getting high.
Right.
It's about intentional use for personal growth and healing.
Exactly. And that's something we can learn from. We need to approach these substances with respect, understanding, and a focus on harm reduction.
I'm with you on that. So where does the whole legalization debate fit into all of this?
Yeah, because the war on drugs hasn't exactly been a success story.
No, it's definitely failed on a lot of levels.
It's caused way more harm than good.
Yeah.
It's time for a new approach.
Yeah, and we are starting to see some positive shifts. There's a growing movement to decriminalize psychedelics.
Yeah.
To take them out of the realm of criminal justice and treat them as a public health issue.
Which makes so much more sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Criminalizing people who are struggling with addiction or mental health issues just doesn't work.
It just pushes the problem underground and makes it harder for people to get help.
Exactly.
Decriminalization is a good first step, but what about legalization?
Ooh.
That's where things get even more complicated.
Right. Because there are a lot of different ways to approach legalization.
There are.
There's medical use, regulated access. Each one comes with its own set of challenges. Like, how do you ensure people are using these substances responsibly? How do you prevent exploitation? How do you balance personal freedom with public safety?
Those are all huge questions. And it's going to take a lot of careful planning, thoughtful policymaking, and ongoing research to figure out the best way forward.
But at least we're having these conversations, right?
We are.
We're challenging the status quo and exploring new possibilities.
Absolutely. The psychedelic renaissance is here, and it's time to embrace the potential for healing growth and a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
Okay.
But we've got to do it responsibly and thoughtfully.
Right on. We've covered so much ground, but we're not done yet. There's still more to explore.
Stay tuned for part 3 of our deep dive. We'll wrap things up with some final thoughts and maybe even a few philosophical musings.
Ooh, philosophical musings.
Yeah.
Love it. In the meantime, keep those comments coming.
Yes.
We want to hear your thoughts, your questions, your experiences. Let's keep this conversation going. Welcome back, Sipsters. It's the final part of our psychedelic odyssey.
That's right. We're wrapping up our deep dive, and honestly, after all this research and discussion, my mind is officially blown.
Mine too. We've gone from ancient rituals to cutting-edge brain imaging studies, from personal stories of healing to global debates about drug policy.
It's a lot.
It's amazing how much there is to uncover when you really go down the rabbit hole.
For sure.
Speaking of perspectives, it's interesting how our own views on psychedelics have shifted just by having this conversation.
Yeah, for sure. I came into this with some skepticism, but after diving into the research, I'm genuinely impressed by the potential.
Me too. And I think it's a good reminder that we all have our own biases, preconceived notions.
I'm sure.
They can cloud our judgment. We're conditioned to see some substances as good and others as bad, but those labels are often totally arbitrary and based on cultural conditioning.
Totally, like that saying, one person's medicine is another person's poison. What might be healing for one person could be harmful for another.
Exactly.
Context is everything.
So true. There's no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to psychedelics or any substance, really.
Right. It's all about respecting individual differences.
Yeah.
Personal choices and informed consent.
Okay. We've talked a lot about the potential benefits. But let's not sugarcoat things.
Right.
There are potential downsides too, right?
We need to be realistic and approach these substances with a balanced perspective, acknowledging both the risks and the rewards.
Like, we can't ignore the fact that some people do have negative experiences even when they're in a safe environment and they've done all the preparation.
Yeah, and there's still so much we don't know about the long-term effects, especially on the developing brain.
I think it's also important to emphasize that psychedelics aren't a quick fix or a replacement for therapy or other forms of treatment.
Couldn't agree more. They can be incredibly powerful tools for healing and growth.
Yeah.
But they're not magic wands.
Right.
That will solve all your problems overnight.
It's like they can help you unlock certain doors.
Yeah.
But you still have to do the work of walking through them.
Exactly. It's about integration.
Yeah.
About taking what you learn and experience from those psychedelic journeys.
Yeah.
And applying it to your everyday life.
So it's not just about the trip itself.
Right.
It's about what you do with it afterwards.
It's about weaving those insights and experiences into the fabric of your life, making lasting changes, and living more authentically.
As we wrap up this epic deep dive, I'm curious, what are your final thoughts on the future of psychedelics? Where do we go from here?
I think we're at a really exciting turning point. The psychedelic renaissance is gaining momentum.
Okay.
And there's a real opportunity to shift the paradigm when it comes to mental health and well-being.
Ooh, a new paradigm. I like the sound of that. But how do we get there?
It's going to take a collective effort. We need more research-responsible regulation and education to ensure that these substances are used safely and ethically.
And I think it's crucial to move the conversation away from fear and stigma and towards understanding, compassion, and harm reduction.
Absolutely. It's about creating a space where people can explore these substances without judgment, where they can get the support and guidance they need, and where they can share their experiences openly and honestly.
Because in the end, isn't that what it's all about? Connection?
Yeah.
Understanding and expanding our consciousness?
Absolutely.
Both individually and collectively.
Beautifully said. It's about embracing the mystery, the unknown, and the infinite possibilities that exist within us all.
All right, Sipsters, we've reached the end of our psychedelic adventure.
We have.
But this conversation doesn't have to end here.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those comments coming. We want to hear your thoughts on this fascinating and ever-evolving topic.
And don't forget to check out Micky's YouTube channel, Mickytolife, for more mind-expanding content. He's the one who sparked this whole journey. So big thanks to Micky.
Cheers to that.
And cheers to all of you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of psychedelics.
Until next time, keep sipping, keep thinking, and keep exploring the vast and wondrous world within and around you.